bigger than the budget set aside for the defense of the nation's territory in 2024. Breaking it down, ransom paid by Nigerians to secure the freedom of their loved ones in 2024 surpasses the 1.647 trillion budgeted by the nation in 2024.
The National Bureau of Statistics has released a report indicating that Nigerians paid a total of 2.23 trillion naira as ransom in 12 months between May 2023 and April 2024. It states that the money was paid by households affected by kidnapping incidents, highlighting the threat posed by criminal activities in the country. According to the Bureau's latest Crime Experience and Security Perception Survey report, an estimated 51.89 million crimes were recorded across Nigerian households in the reference period. The survey showed that the Northwest region had the highest incidence of crime, with 14.4 million cases reported, following by the North Central region with 8.8 million incidents. In contrast, the Southeast region reported the least crime, with 6.18 million incidents. Of those affected by kidnapping, 65% were forced to pay ransom to secure the release of victims. The average ransom paid was 2.67 million naira, contributing to the total of 2.23 trillion naira paid by Nigerians to criminals during the 12 months. All right, Rufai, 2.23 trillion naira paid as a ransom, at least captured by this report. There might be someone captured.
At this point, is it safe to say we should start leading kidnapping as part of economic activities in our GDP? I think it has gone to that point. Because calculate a budget of 48.something trillion, divide 2 trillion by that. You see, it's a sizable part. And that's what kidnapping has become because of the failure of our political leadership. And it rests on leadership. Chinua Achebe wrote a book in the 80s. He said the problem of Nigeria squarely is that of a leadership problem. And that's just what we are facing. Over 2.6 million paid averagely in a country for kidnapping, in a country where people cannot be paid most of the time the minimum wage. That's the sad reality by some of the states. They've made the announcement. What's the execution like? Even government, have they paid most of the parastatals the minimum wage? Those are the questions on ground. You now look at the rural areas that used to be the bastion of peace. You have more kidnapping cases there.
Yeah, that's so sad.
When you now break it down by the regions, you see that the Northwest takes a huge toll of all of this insecurity. Over 14 million cases. Then you have, the North Central. Then you now have the Southeast. So out of the 6 geopolitical zones, 3 regions to 4 regions, most of the regions are inundated with heavy security challenges. That's a failure of leadership. That's why the president has been mute about it. If it was a good report now, Mr. Bayo and Onuga would be the first to react. As regards this, he's not reacted. We have not heard anything from them. Ayo, now go one step further and extrapolate the figures. You see that over 51 million cases of crime reported in a population of over 200 million. So that means 1 in every 4 Nigerians probably faced one level of crime or the other. You now go to the figures. You now see that there's even more on the rural areas, about 26.2 million, as against the urban areas, 26.5 million. You now see murders, over 1.6 million in urban areas. You now look at it in the rural areas, over 500,000. Killings here and there. And when you look at all of this, it's a failure. So what are the solutions, Ayo? Number 1, more access to data. Digitalization. We need to be able to digitalize our security infrastructure. That's why I'm happy with what Olubunmi has done with this, all the touch point of information in this hub, this immigration hub. But secondly, they also talked about reportage of cases. Can the police even now make an app where people can report? Even if they make it, what's the viability of it? We should look at that. Yeah. Because most of the people, to go report the case is very difficult. Thirdly, people must also take personal measures, vigilance. Can we make available mass, building of security cameras so that people can be able to install them in their homes? Just the other day, there was a case of an inside job. A security man which has been in a house for 15 years led some people in to come and steal in the house. If not for CCTV camera, we wouldn't have gotten it.
True.
So you can also do that within your means. Also, we need to be able to invest in the police force. invest in their welfare, get more police on the ground. Less than 500,000 police officers for a population of over 200 million people has been said to be very paltry. That's why the move for state police is also imminent. Most importantly, we now need to go back to the data set of our NIN and beavers. Why is it that kidnappers, after you register your phone numbers on NIN, they cannot still track them? So a lot must be done. That process must be made to be very transparent. Most importantly, we also need government will. Government will to be able to tackle all of this. All these security projects might have been highlighted, but are those monies actually spent? You also need to be able to face the case of street lights, because crime thrives in darkness. We need to light up more areas. You can see the viability of the 3rd Mainland Bridge since it's been properly lit up. But most parts of Lagos and other parts of the country are not properly lit up. So these and many other things we should be thinking of now. But it's a damning report.
All right, Dr. Batsi.
The National Bureau of Statistics, to the best of my knowledge, is a government agency that collates data. And now the same National Bureau of Statistics is more or less indicting government. The primary function of government, we're told in the Constitution, is to ensure the security and welfare of the people. If about a quarter of the Nigerian population, how many are we in this environment? They put the figure variously within the range of 200 billion. And if over 51.88 million have been victims of crime, then it means that government is failing in terms of its original function. That is the major import of the report by the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, the categories of crime that they have indicated include abduction, phone theft, rape. In other words, the report is saying Nigerians are not safe and the security agencies are not functioning and government is not living up to expectation, by way of summary. Now, the other details in that report even indicates that there's more crime in rural areas than in urban areas. It also says that, look, there's more crime in the Northwest, which has over 14 million reported cases this year alone, followed by the Northeast, over 7 million, followed by the North Central, over 7 million, and maybe 6 point whatever, in the Southeast. Well, they didn't look at all the geopolitical zones. However, it says perception survey. So we have to, again, look at the method that has been done, because it's about perception. Whether it's perception or it is raw data that they are working upon in a country where there is usually no record of anything in a categorical manner, but perception, the word that they have used, perception survey, anybody living in this country with basic common sense knows that safety is a problem, security is a challenge. The third point that is made in that report is that, one, if people are stealing phones, people are asking for ransom, it means that it's something wrong with the way the society is organized. And there is a very serious case of poverty. And that is part of the problem. Another issue that report pointed out is lack of confidence in the security agencies. Even when people are abducted and they know that they should go to the security agencies, where the report says they don't go because they believe that police intervention will not yield any result. Here, therefore, we deal with a dilemma whereby there is complete lack of confidence, more or less, in the security apparatus in the country. If the people think police will not bring any meaningful action, then it means that the people are alienated from the same people, namely government, that is supposed to protect them. The report goes on further to say that on the average, response time is less than 30 minutes. Well, I queried that part of the report, but they are saying it's perception survey. We have had many cases in this country where response time exceeded 2 days, exceeded 3 days. Now, I hope that this report will function as a wake-up call for the security agencies and particularly for government to realize that a country where people are abducted and families have to pay not less than 2.7 million on the average to get their people rescued from those who have arrested them or abducted them, it means that something is wrong that government should look into. Police reform, people will always ask about police reform. The security agencies will always ask for more money. But the efficiency of the security agencies is linked to how government fulfills its primary purpose. Security in this regard. Our welfare, in addition, beyond distribution of rice and palliatives at different points in the year.
All right, so if this were a report card for the government between 2023, I think it was April to March of this year, then this is a fail in terms of security and the government's responsibility to provide security for lives and property in Nigeria. But this is also a good report because oftentimes we speculate, we talk about the non-availability of data in order to be able to properly plan for different agencies or arms of government. And so this is a good move. I'm glad that the NBS has released these figures. It will be interesting to know to what extent the level of poverty has influenced the increase in crime, in terms of crime rate. So I'm not sure if there's a year before report to be able to compare the numbers and see just how much difference, prices of goods and services, inflation has influenced the level of crime in Nigeria, because that's something to note. However, a few things. The budget, the defense budget, so security and defense budget for 2024 stood at 3.85 trillion naira. The budget for the police was 1.65 trillion naira. So it means that people paid more in ransom than what the Nigerian police received as budgetary allocation in 2024. It means that more than half of the entire security budget of Nigeria was what people paid to criminals in Nigeria as a form of ransom. So when we talk about, even though to be honest, the security budget or security takes the largest chunk of the entire budget. However, it means that we're still not spending enough in terms of security and defense. That's something to talk about. I mean, we can look at revenue generation, but the truth is that for a nation the size of Nigeria, 3.85 trillion naira is not near enough to secure internally or to secure this nation, obviously, because if people are willing to pay that amount of money or collectively to ransom, to ransom their lives or the lives of their relatives, then it means that there's cause for concern. It'll be interesting to see what the budget that the president will present for this cycle would be in terms of allocation to security agencies. Also, when the budget was passed earlier this year, the president had said there'd be a performance review monthly to see how well the budget was performing, what the plans had been. It's also not about the allocations alone. It is how far the allocations go and if the money budgeted for different sectors is actually going there. We've heard of stories where, our security agencies have complained about money budgeted not actually reaching the intended. So I'm talking about provision of security apparatus for the people themselves to secure. Let me make that case. Then the report also gives a very bad report about the actions or activities of the police in the year under review. This then influences people's lack of trust and a negative perception. So people who have been wronged in terms of victims of crime would rather keep quiet and endure or sort themselves out than report to the police. What then is the option of the common man in Nigeria? It means that the IG of police has to look within his camp and see how they can work and train their officers. I saw a report earlier where he said that they should not stop people search, phones and the likes of Nigerians or individuals on the streets. But it's beyond that. The code of conduct of the police. They say the police is your friend, but how many people actually believe that? How many people would rather just sort themselves out? In fact, the report says that they trust more in local vigilantes than going to the police. And we've seen reports of where the police themselves, when you go to report to them, now even perform more criminal actions on you. And that is quite sad for a nation like Nigeria. So, like I mentioned, in terms of a report card, this is a failure for this government in the area of provision of security of lives and properties for Nigeria. In the area of information, excellent. We need to understand and know the true picture of things so we're able to begin to tackle the challenges. Rufai, you talked about an app. I chuckled because if you have an app and people don't use the app is useless. If I know there's an app for the police and the app, I don't trust the process, I don't trust that anything will happen if the app is used, then it's as well as useless. So you don't fix the rot in the police service, then we'll continue to have issues like this. But we'll continue the conversation later. We have Chief Simon Okeke coming to speak about state policing. Maybe that just might be one of the solutions to this high crime rate that this report has revealed.